everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another kind of coffee talk, big sister advice. It is about being in a long distance relationship. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of wisdom that I've learned from being in long distance relationships. Gonna kind of share my advice, probably tell my story a little bit. So let's just go ahead and get started. I do have a little bit of experience being in long distance relationships. Some have been successful, some not so much. So I'm just gonna share everything that I have learned, everything that has worked for me, everything that has not worked for me. So the number one thing you have to keep in mind is that long distance relationships are not easy. There's kind of like an age-old saying that long distance relationships never work. That's not true. You know, they're hard. You have to put in work. So basically what I'm trying to get into is that they work if you do. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, the energy. You know, you have to make sure to set aside time to keep in constant communication with them, because you can't just drop everything and go see them. You can't make plans with them, you know, just on a random Tuesday or on the weekend or whatever. So you have to make time where you can. You know, another really important thing to remember is to be realistic. You have to kind of go into a long distance relationship knowing what it's gonna lead to. I did have a long distance relationship where I was a little naive. I moved away, but we basically kind of left the relationship a little open-ended, where we weren't together anymore, but we both told each other that we wouldn't date anybody else. You know, we kept talking, we communicated and said the I love yous and all that as much as we did when we were actually together. But what's gonna segue into my next point is that there was just a little bit of dishonesty. If you are going to be in a long distance relationship, something that is super important is to be honest. You know, there is absolutely no room for deception in a long distance relationship. I think that is just the number one thing that would absolutely kill it. So if you are going to be in a long distance relationship, just know what you're getting into and be honest. Another story, my husband and I now, we had dated a long time ago, and we had split up, and then we were apart for a long time, and then we ended up getting back together, and we've been together ever since. But when we got back together, the first 8 months of that relationship was long distance because he was living in California. And so it was a little bit different. It was a little easier to handle because we'd started from the get-go. When we first got back together, when we were talking about it, I had told him, I was like, look, if we're gonna do this, then are you gonna be able to move up here with me? Like, I hated asking that, but you know, I told him, I'm like, I had just started working again. I had just finalized everything to go back to school. So there were all these factors that where I had to stay where I was, and he was at a point in his life where he could move and he could transfer jobs. So, you know, I think that's what took so long, was that it took him 8 months to successfully transfer jobs. I did go into that knowing that it was going to be somewhat temporary, and he was able to make it up here at least once a month for almost the first 5 months, I want to say. So for most of that 8 months that we were apart, we did see each other at least once a month. You know, we talked all the time, we texted all the time, you know, and this was the days where, you know, social media wasn't what it was today. And so it was a lot harder to just keep in that constant communication, but we did the best with what we had. Which leads into my next topic, is about communication. You know, that is one of the key components to a successful long distance relationship, is just to communicate. Nowadays, you know, people, I'm sure, have a much easier chance of having a successful long distance relationship than I did, because social media is just, it makes it so easy. You know, you can sit there and text, Instagram them, Facebook them, Snapchat them, FaceTime them all at the same time, and it's just, it's easy. You know, when I had my long distance relationships, it wasn't like that. So I guess that is something, you know, just utilize what you have as far as being able to communicate, even over little things, you know, to send pictures of what you're doing throughout the day and text and updates, so that, you know, it still feels like they're there with you. You know, another part of long distance relationships is they suck. If you're into somebody, if you are in love with somebody, if you care about somebody so much, you know, you're gonna want them there all the time, or at least more than however often you get to see somebody in a long distance relationship. When you're in a long distance relationship with somebody, there's so much more planning, and there's, you know, there's all kinds of extra steps you have to take in order to see somebody, and that sucks when you just want to be around somebody all the time. If you are, you know, in a long distance relationship, or if you're starting a long distance relationship, or if you're thinking about starting a long distance relationship, you know, just keep that in mind, that they're not easy. You really need to actually work to make it successful. You have to be realistic. You have to completely, you know, you have to communicate. And you have to make time. That's just my words of wisdom for being in a long distance relationship. I got the idea for this video because my husband's job was going to take him back to California, and it was basically where he would be down there for probably, like, you know, however long, and then be able to come back up whenever he could, whenever that would be, and then I would be able to fly down and see him whenever I could. But I work full time, so that wouldn't be as often as I would like. So that's where I got the idea for this video, and I'm not really sure what's gonna happen with my husband's job situation. It's still very much a possibility, so that's why I just kind of wanted to, you know, I guess give myself a little refresher in long distance relationships and what they really entail and how to make them work. Alright, so that's it for my video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Go ahead and subscribe if you like my channel. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.